Hi. Hello. Do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Deane. I'm a trained occupational therapist who has specialised in burns and scar management, and I've been working probably for around 10 years maybe in that area. And it is an area of passion of mine as well, working with the plastics team, so that's me. Yeah. And I myself haven't had a C-section, but obviously through my job I've seen a lot of women with C-sections and have had friends that have had them as well. So that's kind of my experience with C-sections. Yeah.
I first met Deane when we were working on my son's scar actually, so crossed paths and the rest is history. So firstly we'll just start off with some general knowledge. So why do we scar after a C-section?
So the reason why we scar after a C-section is that, as you're aware, because you've probably had C-section yourself, is that you cut through the layers of the skin down through the subcutaneous layer of fascia in to get to the uterus. And what happens is that then needs to reform and re-glue itself back together, because the skin is our largest organ of our body, and so what it doesn't want is, its main job is to protect from foreign bodies and not let anything bad get into our internal system. And so what it needs to do is it needs to heal back together, and so and by healing back together it's needing to put down more collagen basically. Yeah.
If everything goes well, how do we know if it's healing well, the scar?
So how you know is that you'll have a nice scar line. There won't be any areas of what we call dehiscence where it's like pulled apart. Some scars can kind of, the underneath layer is fine, but the bottom bit kind of pulls apart and creates a little open wound. Kind of like what you'd see if you like nicked yourself somewhere or cut yourself on a knife. It would be similar to that, but on that scar line. Infection, so any pussy bits or any like redness right around the scar on the skin itself, that's all sign of infection, and so that's when you should go and seek advice. But to know if it's healing well is it'll just be a nice scar line that is probably on the scar line itself to expect colours like a purple or a red or anything like that. But if any of those colours go beyond the scar line on the skin around it, that's when you probably need to go and seek help.
How do you know when your C-section scar has fully healed?
So what we like to see from a wound healing point of view in general is we like to see that wounds heal within 2 to 3 weeks post injury, if that makes sense. Linear lines tend to heal, and your scar line is a linear line, it's a nice straight line. They tend to heal a little bit quicker, so around like the 7 to 10 days you should see that it's pretty well knitted together, but at that point in time it will be knitted together but still a bit fragile. Yeah, so you want to just be aware that it will take about 10 days plus a few to be well formed, well kind of glued back together.
And that's the top layers, not all the deeper
Not
layers?
all the deeper layers, I'm just talking the wound. So sometimes the deeper layers do take a little bit longer. Wounds heal kind of from the outside in and the downwards up as well. And so sometimes, because there's only a very like less than a millimetre gap, there shouldn't even be a gap between the scar lines, that takes less time to heal, because it might, depending on what they did down here, it depends on how fast all internally heal. Yeah.
Thank you. What would your top tips for post-op care be for your scar?
So my top tips would be to, one, listen to the advice of your midwife until that wound is healed, and she will be able to guide you and tell you when that wound is healed. Once you're given the all good to go, the tick of approval that it has healed, my top tip would be taping, and it would be anchoring it at the bottom and then pulling it up to decrease the tension between the skin lines. I think we've done a video around that, and so you can go and pop and have a look at the taping technique there. But the idea behind reducing the tension between the lines is so that the collagen that's being formed doesn't overproduce. Because if something's being pulled like this, our body's natural reaction is to throw more collagen in that area. And that's when you'd feel maybe like a thicker kind of worm underneath, or some lumpy bumpiness over on the top of your scar. And that's because there's maybe been too much tension, or you've got genetic predisposition to hypertrophic or keloid scarring.
Okay, so if we as women choose to be too active, that can actually be detrimental to the healing process?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would eliminate how much, I mean, you're not allowed to do much picking up in the first 6 weeks, if I recall from my, not from my experience, from my memory, you're not allowed. So in that first 6 weeks, really take the time to enjoy having a newborn, allow your body to recover from the 9 months plus the actual C-section and the stress and everything around that, and allow your skin and your scar to heal and in that time frame. So getting back to exercise, I mean, a light walk, or any kind of like early core stuff, maybe if you can start between that time, that's not going to cause too much trouble. But definitely don't go lifting huge weights or go running or anything like that, because it just causes so much tension on that area.
Thank you. Is there any creams that you would recommend or definitely don't recommend for helping the scar?
So in the first 6 weeks, I would probably just concentrate on taping, unless your scar is really itchy and quite dry. If it is really itchy and quite dry within that first 6 weeks, I'd start off with like a water-based fragrance-free moisturizer. We want to try and hydrate that scar as much as possible, because when it's dry, it easily cracks and breaks open, and we don't want to cause any infection either. And so if it is dry and itchy, then maybe popping a moisturizer on. And some tapes are really good because they have little perforations, and so you can tape and you can also moisturize through the tape. Yeah, which is really good. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. The other thing with taping is you don't want to take it on and off each day. Okay. You kind of want to keep it on for a week and then take it off gently in the shower. And a tip for taking it off is actually using cooking oil, not olive oil or any or grapeseed or whatever, but just a normal oil, and then using like a cotton bud and dab the oil on before you have a shower. Turn it on, let it heat up, and then it should just peel off in the shower rather than having to hold your skin and get that tape off, because that can be
the hair.
Yeah, we don't want that. Yeah. And so keeping it nice and clean for the period of time while it's healing is really important. Yeah, those would be the main things.
What signs of infection or complications should we be looking out for?
Signs of infection, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, were like a pussy yellow, some redness, itchiness. Obviously, you've got a fever yourself, or generally feeling unwell. Hot to touch would be another one. Yeah, so just, and it wouldn't be about worrying about it, it would just be about having that conversation with your midwife. Okay. Yeah.
Are there any C-section scar side effects that we should be aware of?
Some side effects, the only one major one that I can think of is that there would be a little bit of adhesion to the underlying tissue, which would feel uncomfortable for when you're kind of arching your back or doing lunges or anything like that. You might feel like a tightness that you don't want to rip through. Sometimes that's a complication. Another complication is sensitivity. So you can get quite a sensitive scar, and so sensitivity are things like pins and needles, can't withstand like even a light touch, because you either get a burning sensation or some of those neurological kind of signs that people experience. So pins and needles, numbness, tingling, heat, like a heat response when you're touching it, or just a feeling sick when you're touching it.
With pins and needles sensitivity, is there something that you can do to improve that?
Absolutely. So it's just like restarting the computer. So what's happened is you've either it's been a planned C-section or an emergency C-section. In that case, your body puts up like a fight-flight response because you've had something externally done to you. And so your body kind of, your nerves put up this fight flight response, like, oh, don't touch me, I'm protecting what's ever happening here. What we've got to do is basically calm them down and just say, hey, like, it's okay, you're healed, everything's fine, baby's fine, and we can kind of move on. And sometimes it's just a matter of just touching it, and then eventually you can move on from that, or there's a full desensitization program that you can go through that scar management therapists often will provide, or even maybe a women's health physio. Sometimes they're aware of those as well. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Keloid scarring, anything people need to be aware if they do scar in that way?
Yeah, so there's two different forms of keloid scarring. So there's keloid scarring, as we know, and that's a genetic predisposed kind of form of scarring where the collagen overproduces, and it often grows above and beyond the border of the scar. So you've got your scar line, and it'll often grow up and out, almost like a mushroom, if you like. Then you have hypertrophic scarring, which is raised, lumpy, bumpy scarring, generally on that scar line. It might be widened a little bit. And so it's just about being aware that it is there. And if you are predisposed to it, then I probably would seek professional help through a scar management therapist, or alternatively, if your women's health physio can provide it, then absolutely go and see them.
Perfect. So reaching out to get
Reaching out, definitely, because there's lots of different products that can be used to try and mitigate it. As scar management therapists, women's health therapists, we're better at preventing the scar than fixing it. Once it has formed and developed, it's harder to work with than if you know that you're predisposed to it, we can work with preventing it from happening. Yeah.
Brilliant. Does C-section scar prevent you from having subsequent vaginal births?
That's an interesting question, because I have been asked that before, but for me personally, it's beyond my scope to tell you whether or not it will prevent you from having a vaginal birth, and that's something that you probably have to discuss with your GP or midwife. Yeah.
Should I give my C-section scar a massage?
Yeah, absolutely. Starting off with the light touch to get your body used to it, and then after that 6-week period of time, you can start massaging it, kind of making a snake technique, pressing a little bit firmer to whatever your body will allow. And then you can do like a pinch and roll technique, which is where you're kind of picking up the scar and rolling it between your thumb and your index finger and middle finger. And you can do that like lengthways and sideways as well. Just kind of try and grab it. Sometimes it's a bit difficult, but if you're moving it around and kind of moving that tissue, then it's just preventing it from adhering.
And what happens if it does adhere? What could happen?
If it does adhere, what could happen is that there could be some instances where you're back doing exercise and everything like that, and then all of a sudden you feel like a kind of like internal like sting, and that's just the adhesion like letting go, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a good thing. If the pain after that persists, then I would definitely go and seek advice from a physiotherapist or someone like that. But if you get a sting and after a couple of days it's gone, then that's generally the adhesion that's like let go.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Will my doctor use the same scar line in my next C-section?
Yeah, generally they do. Generally they go through the same scar line or a millimetre, beyond or either side. Sometimes they take out, if there's like dense scar tissue there, sometimes they'll take out some of that scar tissue, and depending on how much extra skin they have to close it up, because they're aware of the skin tension as well. But yeah, they generally do go through there.
And would you recommend if women have quite intensive adhesions and scar and whatnot, would you recommend scar removal?
It would be something that I would discuss with the obstetrician, whether or not that's something that they're willing to do. But if they do have a nasty scar line and they are going in for another C-section, then I would automatically be looking at getting a scar management or a women's health referral, so that we can be seeing you at 6 weeks. And so getting it early, because of the wait times and everything like that.
And if I just had a scar and I just wanted to get it removed because I didn't like the look of it, is that something that is recommended or possible?
No, because you're always going to have a scar. So whether you get it removed, and so if you got it removed, you'd be replacing it with another scar anyway. And if it was a nasty scar and a hypertrophic or a keloid scar, we don't know whether or we could try and work at preventing it from coming back, but because you're predisposed to it, there is risk that it will return like that or maybe worse. Yeah. So it is a catch-22, and women have asked me this before, and I just give them all the education that I can in terms of the fact that if we remove it and then we start afresh, we could potentially improve it, but the chances of it coming back are really high because they are predisposed to that form of scarring anyway.
Yeah. What are the benefits of massaging your C-section scar?
There's a few benefits. So one of the benefits is to desensitize the scar. So sometimes your nerves can be like hyperactive, putting up that fight-flight response, and so sometimes a massage is really good just to desensitize it. Another advantage of massage is to prevent adhesion, and to move the scar tissue around so that it kind of moves with the normal kind of movements of your body. And then another benefit of it is to reduce how much collagen is forming and break down some of the bundles of collagen. So in our skin is formed in like lattice work, if you like, and when a scar forms, bundles of collagen is thrown down, it doesn't like align nicely when it's forming. It kind of just is like example, sand, making sand balls, throwing them in an area. That's the kind of essentially what collagen is doing. And so by massaging, you're just kind of like rolling out the collagen to make sure that it's nice and flat.
Are there any disadvantages for not massaging your scar?
Some women are lucky and they don't have to do anything for their scar, and they'll have this beautiful, flat, soft, supple scar.
Oh, bless them.
Yes. Other women though are less fortunate, but you don't know which one you are. So it's better if you have time in your day to just do a quick massage, then it's better to do that to benefit yourself than think about, like in hindsight, it would have been good to massage. Yeah.
How soon after having my C-section can I begin massaging my scar?
I would wait about 6 weeks for that to happen. You can rub moisturizer on it. So there's a difference between rubbing and massaging. So you can rub moisturizer on it within that 6 weeks period of time once the wound has healed. But I would wait about 6 weeks and then just start with a light massage and then just slowly increase the amount of firm pressure that you're putting in with that massage technique.
And the amount of pressure that you apply, should you be feeling anything underneath your fingertips?
Sometimes you can feel like little bristly bits, and that's okay, and just kind of massage through those a little bit. Initially really early on, kind of around that 6 weeks, if there's some sutures, internal sutures that haven't yet dissolved, you might kind of feel a little bit of discomfort or feel like a little prick or anything like that, and that's okay. Those will generally dissolve. Sometimes the body will push them out, and you'll get like a little pimple looking thing, and then the suture will kind of like push out, but not often. Yeah.
How do I massage my incision?
We've got a video on this that we can refer to. There is just the rubbing, so just the rubbing of the scar line, or there's the snaking of the scar, so going backwards and forwards alternatively, I suppose, with your hands. And then there's the pinch and roll. Yeah.
And if a woman feels nervous about doing it herself or feels like she doesn't want to touch that area, how can she move towards the benefit of massage if she doesn't feel comfortable doing it herself?
So I think initially just getting used to having pressure over your scar, whether it be from like a firm pant or your hand on your stomach, then you can kind of do it through tape or through clothes. You can just be kind of stroking your scar line, and then you can kind of progress on. I say if you can do it through your pants to start off with, and just do this for almost until it's numb. and then move on to using a different pant of a different type of material.
So thinner?
Yeah, and then kind of progressing to then being able to do it skin to skin. Yeah. If you can't do it skin to skin even after you've done all of that, then just do it through your tape. And then eventually you can get to that being able to touch skin to skin, because that's the best.
And it's normal for some women to not feel comfortable
100%.
touching that area?
100%. It's normal for anyone that's had any type of emergency surgery or any surgery to because it's an invasion, if you like, and so it's normal to feel a little bit weird about touching it, because you don't know what to expect unless you've had it before. Yeah.
How often, regularly, like how should we do it daily? How long should we do it for when we do it?
I always suggest if you can do it, I mean, having a newborn, it's going to be hard to do it as much as possible, but I suggest if you can do it in the morning and in the evening, or even just of an evening, and do it in the ad breaks of like a half-hour TV program, and then that's just touching it and getting used to it, and then maybe doing that for like a half hour, and then having a break, cooking dinner, feeding Barbs, and then going back and doing another half hour if you don't fall asleep. Yeah, I wish. Still.
Yeah. So true, years down the track. Yeah. It's like, oh, the precious thing of sleep. That's awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to share when it comes to helping the scar healing as well as it can?
Obviously in the wound healing phase, making sure that it's kept clean, and that you're allowing your body to heal in that phase. So the things like sweating and everything like that are things that I would avoid, because the sweat you can't wipe away if you've got dressings on or anything like that, and that's like a zest for infection because of the heat and the sweat in that area. And then from a C-section management point of view, obviously waiting that 6 weeks, as everyone is advising, seeking help from the likes of yourself, like a PT who is keen to get a woman back into exercise but in the right way, or seeking help from a woman's health physio if there's anything internal going on or anything more that needs therapist input. Just accept it's part of you. Yeah.
Scars aren't bad.
No, they're not bad. They're not bad. And it's a huge thing for someone to have as a scar, because it is a consistent reminder of either the good, the bad, or the ugly. It's a big mental game as well. So if you are feeling a bit anxious about it or anything like that, then if you can talk to someone about it, then there's lots of help out there as well. From the likes of yourself or myself or a women's health physio or midwife or anyone like that.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
No worries, it's been a pleasure.
Do it again. So I want to thank the incredible Deane for helping to make this video possible. Recovering from a C-section is a challenging process, but we don't have to do it alone. So I really want to encourage you, keep on connecting, reach out if you have any further questions, and we'll see what we can do to help empower you in your journey. Because again, life is better when we do it together, right? I want you to have a great day, and I look forward to hearing how you find this video. So comment below, and if you have any other further questions, reach out. So from myself and the Birthmark Sisterhood, we want to say we're really proud of you for taking the step to move forward in your recovery and helping your C-section scar to heal as effectively as it can, to help you have a healed, restored and strong body. So have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video. See you later. Should I give myself a C-section scar, or should someone else be doing that for me?
Should you give yourself C-section scar massage?
Oh, sorry, C-section. Should I give myself a C-section?
I was like, no, not a C-section.
If it's really extreme. We've watched ER enough.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Let's try that again.